Hello, my name is John Gentry, and that was an example of changing my tone to greet you. I'm doing an annotation on chapter 3 of Fleming's book. It's the way you say it. It's called Developing a Dynamic Voice, and hopefully, after reading this and watching this annotation, you too will be able to develop your own dynamic voice. So, begins with the idea that Fleming states that the sound of your voice conveys who you are as a person. If you have a happy voice, people think that you're a happy person. If you have an angry voice, people think that you're an angry person. So on and so forth. Worried voice, worried person kind of links to that way. And it's funny how she says that because it seems like often that is true. But at the same time, it's not necessarily something you want to judge. Don't judge a book by its cover kind of situation. So the word dynamic keeps coming up, and what that means is, well, your voice is dynamic. It can change its tone. You have emphasis on different syllables or different words at certain times. Basically, your words, and when you put them together, your sentences, are enthralling and easy to understand, and you don't get bored listening to them. Which kind of brings up this idea that Fleming has that when your voice is dynamic, it's actually easier to be heard. She uses an example of you in a crowd of your friends and no one's listening to you even though you're talking about something really important. And why are they not listening to you? Probably because your voice is flat, monotone, and boring, and no one really wants to pay attention to that. I think we've always experienced that in different classrooms. Um, but once again, Fleming says that we can change this, and by changing that, we then become this dynamic person that people do want to listen to. We will be heard, as she says. So, Fleming follows this up by telling us that you can practice these skills by doing different forms of physical expression. She says drama, as in theater, improv. Singing is a really good one, and then dance. Dance kind of throws me off because it seems like more of a physical thing. I don't know if I'm ever speaking and dancing at the same time, but who knows. But basically, it's all about letting you be comfortable in kind of a different person's shoes. In that way, I think that it might be more of a novel idea that isn't necessarily foolproof and able to be put onto someone's actual life, because I think it's easy to be this person acting out in theater, but then not follow through with that into your real life, you know. Following this, we have a bunch of examples in the classic Fleming way, where she goes through a list of different things that we need to do in order to enable a dynamic voice, and then has a little annotation below them. Fleming loves to do this in all her chapters, as I'm sure we've seen, and what I love are her examples. I think that's one of the reasons that it's easier to finish her chapters is because she has so many examples from her real life practice that we're able to then picture in our head, or it just kind of gets us through what might be a more dry and perhaps monotone text. But because of her examples, we actually are able to fly through them. One of these examples that she always brings up, similar to the whole physical expression, is talking to children, and how this can help you out by just reading them a story or something like that, because you're able to express yourself in different tones, such as the wicked witch or the grumpy bear. You're able to change your emphasis in different words and so on and so forth, and change your pitch in order to um, practice, and you're able to do it in front of kids who aren't going to judge you and look at you like you're weird. So, what are these things that we need to improve? Well, first one is tone. Second one is rate of speed of talk. And the third one is pause, like that. And the fourth one and final one is pitch. Tone conveys emotion. That kind of goes back to what her initial statement was, where the sound of your voice or how you speak conveys who you are and what people think you are, at least. The rate of speed is self-explanatory. It's how fast I talk or how slow I talk. And thirdly, pitch, which I always get confused with pitch and tone. I'm still kind of confused. I don't think she necessarily explains that well. And finally, pause, which is used more like a dramatic effect, in which I just did right now. I just paused. I always think of William Shatner in the original Star Trek series when I think of pause, or perhaps the actor that I'm thinking of. I can't remember his name, but anyways, William Shatner, let's just go with that. Oh, Christopher Walken, there we go. So then Fleming follows this up by, once again, classic Fleming, going through the different problems that she experienced with her different clients. These can be summed up quite simply as sing-song voice, where your voice and inflection and tone goes up and down various levels, and then you have emphasis on different syllables or words, and how this can be a great thing to learn, but it can also be a horrible thing where you say, I do not want to do that, and it kind of has that staccato way of speaking. And then finally, resonance, where lack thereof can once again lead you to not be heard. It's kind of a windy, whiny voice rather than from your belly and loud and authoritative. And she kind of finishes these all up by saying that lack of the overall dynamic in voice makes one seem childlike. And once again, she has an example of this where one of her clients was dealing with that at work. So overall, once again, I like this chapter just because of her examples, but I do feel it's starting to already repeat itself in a way. I can't help but think, especially at the end of the chapter, it repeats itself. The entire section of getting it pitch perfect seemed like she was just rehashing what she had already gone over, such as emphasis and tone and pitch and pause and so on and so forth. I didn't really think that was even necessary, and it was a good part of the entire chapter. It was her conclusion, and I feel like if you're just using your conclusion to not add anything new, you're kind of failing in a way. I'm worried about the following chapters and how these will turn out. I'm hoping that we get somewhere new, but I'm thinking that she's just going to go more in depth on things like pitch and pause. Overall, a good chapter, an interesting chapter, but perhaps not the most dynamic of chapters. Thank you very much. Look forward to my next video.